Welcome to another episode of Bonus Time with your host, Matt. I'm here today with David Boutilier. I hope I got that correct this time. And best known for...
Not much, really, but people call me Boots here in town. In my more nightlife, my bar identity, as it were. A lot of people know me as that, but you can call me basically whatever you want. I'll answer pretty much anything.
All right, so Boots it is. We're here to talk to you today about something that I know has irked us all at one point in our life, but I mean, they're not all bad. We're here to talk about video game movies.
Oh my God, they're not all good either.
They are far from all good. I kind of got the idea of this episode today by watching. I'm sure a lot of you out there have seen it, and I know Dave has now. The review for Pixels, the movie that has just come out, I believe on Thursday. It just released, and
yeah, it's in theaters now, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately,
it's new this weekend.
Unfortunately, yes.
Don't think it'll be a blockbuster.
I highly doubt it'll be anything to even sneeze about. The movie, I mean, it's done by Adam Sandler. I don't know how much further I need to go into that, but the trailer itself, I mean, I am a huge gamer, huge fan of games, huge fan of the gaming culture and everything that goes along with it, but I cannot support this movie. I cannot support it, and I cannot support people who support it. It looks so bad.
You know, sometimes I wonder if there are multiple Adam Sandlers. Like in that movie where he had to go back to school and go through each grade, if each one was, in fact, a different Adam Sandler. And then occasionally they let the grade 2 version of Adam Sandler make a movie. Right? And in this case, I mean, I can only assume that based on the trailer, based on the footage that we've seen so far, that we're going to end up with nothing but no less than 3 dick jokes. I would be really upset.
At least. I'm pretty sure that's like a, you know, some sort of goal that they have to hit. I mean, like okay, so we gotta have the movie to be this long. We have this much of a budget, and we have this many dick jokes to throw in there. And
yeah, totally. And he's just reading the script, going, "Ha ha ha! This is hilarious."
In that stupid voice of his that he does. Oh my God, yeah. So if you guys haven't checked out this review done by Movie Bob, I highly recommend it, because you have never seen anyone passionately hate someone like this guy hates this movie.
No. So this is my first experience with Movie. This is my first experience with Movie Bob. So I wasn't sure what he was like, right? Yeah. So I thought, first off, okay, angry video game nerd, he just hates everything. So I went back and looked a couple of different videos to see what else he's reviewed, and I gotta say I did agree with the majority of what I listened to.
Yeah.
So that being said, I get a little bit of trust in this guy, right? Because our opinions seem to align. So when he says this is absolute shit, I've got to be inclined to agree.
I mean, the bit in the trailer with the whole creator of Pac-Man going up and reaching out and saying, "Oh no, he's my son," and like, you know, then Pac-Man biting his hand off. I knew at that very point that this was not for me.
So the trailer clearly shows asteroids being the game Asteroids, not actual asteroids. It's not Ben Affleck going to the moon.
Yeah.
And space invaders.
Yeah.
So we are clearly the quote-unquote good guys of these films. And all of a sudden, halfway through the trailer, they switch.
Yeah.
And Pac-Man is the bad guy.
Yeah, and they're the ghosts.
They're the ghosts?
Yeah.
So, like, what are we talking about here? Is it to the point where they're just going to pick and choose every video game? Because I think in trailer 2, they show what kind of, I don't know if it's supposed to be Pong taking down, like, the White House or something.
Yeah.
But then again, I thought maybe it was just that really shitty game that everybody had on their Nokia phones.
Oh, Brick Breaker.
Brick Breaker.
Yeah.
Because Snake was in there too, right?
Totally.
It could have been Centipede, I guess.
Yeah,
but I
Centipede.
mean, I took it as Snake. And I'm thinking, like, so I guess I don't know the premise for the movie very well, but a time capsule? Or aliens get the time capsule that they sent up in 82 or something?
And they don't really explain how they got there in the trailer, but I don't know.
So they should be, really, if they were smart enough, they'd be fighting us with like New Coke and shitty episodes of MASH and other things that would have been popular. Like, oh my God, there is a possibility that these aliens think we're coming at them with Lou Ferrigno's The Hulk.
Yeah.
Just going there. It's 82, right?
No, totally, right? Totally. And I am not one, just tossing this out there, but I am not one to judge a book by its cover. I will say that right away. Like, you know what? If people say to me, "Oh no, this thing is bad," don't try it out. Whatever. I'll usually just try it because my tastes are different. Everyone has their own opinions on everything, right? But this is just facts I'm looking at, right? I'm looking at the reviews from the critics. I'm looking at the history of movies made by Adam Sandler. And I don't know that
Sandler has some good films.
Yeah.
They've all had
totally.
Drew Barrymore in them,
Yeah.
but he has had some good films.
Yeah, no, totally. I am not saying that he is that he's shit and don't watch anything that he's ever made. I mean, I love a lot of his older stuff. Obviously, like, we can all reminisce about, Happy Madison.
Yeah, but we grew up.
Yep.
And he didn't.
Oh, totally. That's the best way that I've ever heard it being put, because that's totally what it is. He's still making these same jokes and doing these same stupid voices that he's been doing since Saturday Night Live.
And when was he on that? It had to be the late 80s.
Oh, it had to be the 80s.
90s.
Yeah, with Rob Schneider back in that day.
Maybe this is just the only way he can visit the days where he was important. Right?
That's true. Maybe it's some kind of psychological thing for him. For me, I think it's more of a let's see how much money we can make with this shit thing, because it's just, I don't know. If you've seen something like Jack and Jill, I don't even want to go there because it just upsets me. It's terrible to see stuff like this happen, but it's not the first terrible video game movie. And,
far from it.
Oh, very, very
and it
far
won't be
from
the
it.
last.
Oh, it definitely will not be the last.
Before we go into that, though, I do have to tell you a story about when I first heard about Pixel.
Oh, yeah, no, totally.
And I briefed you a little bit over this before we started. But when I first heard Pixel was getting made, I got really, really excited. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I read the book earlier, and I loved it. And I can't wait to see this.
Totally.
And then I quickly realized that it wasn't Ernest Cline's Ready Player One. And I was sorely disappointed because Ready Player One is what people want from a nostalgic video game nerd film.
Totally.
If something was ever to be created like that, the technology's there today. It does have your early 80s video games, right?
Totally.
I mean, I understand from watching that review that Joust will be featured prominently in this video game, and who doesn't like an ostrich? Riding an ostrich?
Totally.
Totally. And that
and
is
you know what?
in Ready Player One, actually.
I'm fairly sure that is in the works. I'm fairly sure that a Ready Player One movie is in the works. I'm
Well, as long as it's not being produced by Happy Madison, they've got my $12.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
So then when I found out Pixel was actually Pixel and I saw the first trailer, I was really disappointed.
Like the rest of the world.
Well, I mean, you've gone to Thailand for the first time, and you've got the girl back to your room, and boom, ladyboy. You're like, this is horrible, and you already paid, right? So I mean, that's what Pixel is to me. Pixel is a Thai ladyboy, right? I was really excited for something that just was never going to be good, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm stuck with this.
Yeah, no,
we're stuck with this film.
Exactly.
And you know what? There are going to be fucking idiots who pay because they want to see Adam Sandler, because they think video games from the 80s are cool, because they never lived through that.
Totally.
And we're going to be with a bunch of 20-year-old shitheads who think that this film is going to make them make $1 billion, and because of them, it will. So next we'll have Pixel 2, Advent of the 16-bit, or some other shit.
Oh no, I can already see it happening.
That's right.
I'm so upset already. It's there's another movie that's also that's going to be coming out as well. That's going to be made by Seth.
MacFarlane,
not
Green,
MacFarlane, Green. Keep going. Rogen. Seth Rogen.
We'll pick a Seth.
Yes,
a name that was not popular 15 years ago is now everywhere.
One of the Seths is making a movie based on the console wars between Sega and Nintendo.
Of the mid 80s?
Yeah.
So, are we talking through Sega Master System and Nintendo?
Yeah,
through Super Nintendo and
until the death of Sega. basically.
Well, I mean, Sega's still technically not dead. They do a lot of software.
The death of the hardware division of Sega. And when I first heard that, I thought, oh, maybe this will be good. But I don't know. Now that I've seen something like Pixels come out, I'm kind of on the fence, even to raise my hopes up to be excited for a trailer for that movie.
Okay, well, give me a documentary, right? Give me a documentary on something like that, and I will really probably enjoy it. But what kind of fucking story can you come up with that will have a plot, an antagonist, a protagonist?
I totally agree.
Is Sonic the Hedgehog going to steal the fucking princess? Right?
Exactly, right? Like, I have no idea what the context is going to be. Like, is it going to be from the perspective of the consumer, like some kid who doesn't know what he's going to choose, and he's going through this whole battle between Sonic and Sega
the coming of age story, right? We're talking an age before porn, right? So this kid's got nothing to experiment on, and he's going to be like, Samus and Peach, little girl on girl pixel action. No, you picked Sega.
Yeah.
Well, what heroines do we have from Sega?
There's that one in Golden Axe.
Yeah, that's right. No, she was cross-platform.
I guess.
Yeah, so the Sega Genesis for me was an amazing time in my life. I loved
totally.
Sega. I was a Nintendo kid. One of my good buddies, Chris, he was a Sega kid, and he had Mutant League Hockey. Mutant League Hockey was the reason to buy a Sega platform.
It was
and it was the only reason, in my opinion, to go down that route. Sega CD, different matter altogether. I would probably sell my grandmother right now for a first-gen Sega CD so that I could play the original cut of Lunar Silver Star.
Oh,
but that's another podcast.
That is totally another podcast, because I would totally like to get into that. That's one of my favorite RPG series of all time.
Oh, awesome.
Something else I wanted to touch on was some of the other video game-based movies that have come out through the years. I know there's just way too many to talk about in this short amount of time, but let's talk about, out of all of the ones that you have personally seen, which one irks you the most? And I know we have a lot of library to go through with people like Uwe Ball.
Okay, so Uwe Ball, let's just stick to him. Just him, right? Because I can think of two, because he's currently news, right?
Oh, yeah, he's current.
So before he went YouTube batshit insane, Uwe Ball did, to my knowledge, make two video game properties. They were both shit. Now I'm going to have to hit the internet before I can recall.
There was actually three.
There were three?
There was, he did Hitman.
Yes.
He did Blood Rain.
Mm-hmm.
And he did House of a Thousand Corpses. Or was it
House of the Dead?
Sorry,
House of the Dead.
I always mix those two up.
And House of the Dead was the only thing that was, in my opinion, passable as a standalone film, because it was a decent horror movie. But decent in that, it came from an IP that lives in a genre that has traditionally shitty movies.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it as a horror movie. I wouldn't recommend it as a video game movie. But on a list of video games that have transitioned to movies, I guess, that are directed by Uwe Ball, that would be the one I would have to recommend if there was a gun to my head.
Oh, really? Oh, man. What about those transitions through that thing where they would cut from scene to scene using
video game,
the clips from the video game, and they were in such low resolution. It was just like, what am I even looking at for a second here? Like, what's happening?
It was like 3 seconds, so at top 60, 70 frames of content that looked like it was shot on a camcorder, because this is, of course, pre-smartphone, over somebody's shoulder as they played in your local movie theater's arcade lobby.
Yeah, no,
right?
Totally. It was so bad. Like, I didn't understand why they did it that way.
If there was a chase scene, they might have just cut over to some kid playing Lucky and Wild.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, no, it was his whole collection is just like, I've watched all the Blood Rain movies, and I was a fan of the Blood Rain games, and
yeah, they were good.
Personally, I had a big crush on Blood Rain herself when I was very young.
Of course.
But those movies, like, I think there was 3, actually. I think they came out with 3 of those friggin' piles of shit.
I watched 2, for sure. I definitely watched 2.
There was a third one, and it was like a totally different girl. It was just like a totally different storyline. It was all about Nazis.
I probably had a choice and chose to get a root canal that day.
chose to just not even that day. No, totally. It was so bad. And I mean, Hitman, I guess in my opinion, would be the only one that maybe if someone had my mother with a throat, like a knife to her throat saying, pick one, I would say Hitman.
Now, Hitman's a great idea, right? You've got a genetically modified assassin.
Yep.
And that plays well in a movie scenario. That really could have flown high.
Yeah.
The Hitman games weren't great.
No.
The Hitman games were a very early push on the third-person stealth assassin-style game. Thank God they existed, because we never would have had Splinter Cell or Assassin's Creed or any of those games that we love today.
Totally.
So they have the game has its place. And the story of Hitman is really, really good. But when you can still put great ingredients into a cup full of shit, and your milkshake is going to be disgusting.
Yeah. No, totally. It was just a mess. I mean, Timothy Olyphant was the one who played Hitman, and now they're actually totally redoing that. There's a new Hitman game. They're kind of, just forget about that first one. Let's not acknowledge that first one exists. We're going to be doing this whole new one with this whole new guy. It's going to be amazing. Trust us. And the big problem I had with that movie was they kind of made Hitman the hero in it, and he is anything but a hero. Like, he's an assassin sent there to kill people.
He is the
right?
most plain Jane vanilla character in this video game.
Yeah.
Because it was a time when you were immersed in the video game itself and not necessarily the characters. So Hitman was generic. He was as generic as they come. He had a barcode on the back of his neck to identify him.
Totally.
Because there were a million of them.
Yeah.
You've seen Ant-Man?
Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen Ant-Man
Okay, I'll shut up about that. NASA recently talked about the new Earth-like planet, right?
Yep.
Kepler 482b.
Very recent.
Not Jibbity Smicket. They didn't name the fucking planet because it's a generic planet.
Yeah.
They don't name Hitman because he's generic.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you cannot have a piece of generic flesh to be your hero.
No. And it's just a terrible idea if you think you can do so. I don't even want to touch on... you know what? He did another one, I believe. I believe he also did Alone in the Dark. Which was also a terrible movie. If he didn't do it, it was just as bad as one of his movies. So
the only thing worse than if he did it was somebody who was inspired by him.
Oh my god!
But yeah, actually, I think you're right. I think he did Alone in the Dark.
Yeah,
I
think that may have actually been his first one, and then he did House of the Dead. But I mean, God, he's not even worth talking about. He was just so bad, and then he had this whole freak out on YouTube where
that was the most entertaining video he's ever made.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that, because I remember when he was getting all these really bad reviews originally. This was back when I was working at Blockbuster, so I could rent all the movies I could ever want, and I was renting some of these, and thank God they were free. Thank God I was not paying money towards this cause, because holy shit would I have been upset.
I never worked at a Blockbuster, but I had a buddy who did.
Oh.
And routinely I would get the no. Just put it back.
Oh yeah. Oh totally. And
so
you know
Walter,
what?
if you're listening, thank you.
It had some really good benefits though. Like, we got to rent movies before they came out because they wanted us to.
Oh, they couldn't go on the shelf till Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then so you guys got them on like a weekend. So again, my buddy Walter, who did this, he would routinely say that because come Tuesday, especially before Blockbuster had their guaranteed in or you get the voucher, the rent free thing, they wanted to be able, their employees to be able to speak intelligently about the movies that were coming out that day.
They wanted us to be able to recommend, or if they had said, "Oh, what's new?" like that, we would know what's new, and
not just refer to the television that was above the counter that said, "This is this week's new releases."
Oh my God.
I'm wearing a blue shirt. Please
I will
kill
never
me.
ever forget that guy's voice. I can't remember what his name is right now. I'm sure if my buddy Eric or Alex is listening to this podcast, if you can comment on it and remind me of what that guy's name was. I'm sure you guys know. We all worked at Blockbuster together, and oh my God. His name was forever haunting our dreams. But the best thing about that was renting games before they actually came out. Oh man, I got to try a few before they came out, and a few I got to recommend to people and stuff like that. That was awesome. But I mean, going back to the whole terrible video game movies, I don't think we can talk about terrible video game movies and not mention the Super Mario Brothers movie, because this is, in my opinion, it rises above when it comes to terribleness.
Yoshi was a raptor. He was a baby raptor.
The Goombas were tall guys with small heads.
They had literally visited like some sort of African voodoo doctor. Remind me of the end of Beetlejuice, right?
Yeah,
where he tries to steal the witch doctor's number, and always with a small head. Totally. Like, yeah, you know what? And I am a firm believer that first Goomba in the first level of Super Mario Brothers is the most violent and dangerous enemy in all of video games.
Oh, for sure.
Because between people not knowing how to play, young kids picking up Nintendo for the first time, he's probably killed more people than anybody in any other game. And then, so to take this violent, malevolent character and give him this treatment of, why is he 7 feet tall with a size 0.5 hat?
Yeah, I don't understand, like... And why was there why were they in Brooklyn? You know, why was there a portal to this place what was that Mushroom Kingdom? What the fuck was the Mushroom Kingdom in that thing? Like, there was those shoes that they could jump, and like,
oh my god, the spring boots,
the mushrooms that were just growing all around the place.
All
like
over the place.
They look like, like the mushrooms you take to have a good trip.
For sure.
Yeah, they don't look like the mushrooms you would find in a Super Mario Brothers movie.
No, not at all.
And then there was fucking Bowser. Like, this movie gets me angry just thinking about it. As you can see, like, I am just actually upset thinking about this movie right now because it's so bad. Like, I remember that, spoiler alert, but I don't even give a fuck because I don't want you guys to see this movie.
Spoiler alert. I think it came out in like the early 90s because it did have Super Nintendo references in it. Obviously, Yoshi was in it, right?
Totally.
So yeah.
You think I'm safe on the spoiler alert then?
You think you'll be okay.
Okay,
yeah.
So at the very end, like the last fucking 2 minutes of this movie, you get to see Bowser for the first time because he's not what is it, Dennis Hopper? Was that
Dennis Hopper? Yeah.
He's not Dennis Hopper anymore with fucking what's that hairstyle he had in that?
Was it like some sort of
like fucking
cornrows?
Yeah, it was like a cornrow or something. It was awful.
That turned into
like fins or
bone.
something.
I was going to say I forget the name of the dinosaur, but I'll be corrected here if there's an 8-year-old boy watching or listening. But the dinosaur that he was in Jurassic World.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about with the fins on its head. I can't remember which one it is.
The big hard skull with ram things, and then it had the tail. But he's not even credited as Bowser. Oh. I just looked it up because I wasn't sure. He's credited as King Koopa.
Oh God.
So I mean, it comes from an era of before. Obviously, the script went through rewrites. Every movie does, but I mean, with Nintendo coming out, I want to say late '91, Super Nintendo. So Super Mario World, there's only 18 months between the movie and the Super Mario World video game.
Yep.
Which meant there was plenty of time to change the character's name to keep up with the current mythology.
Exactly.
To go from King Koopa to Bowser.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you see Bowser in a dinosaur form for about 5 seconds.
Oh, that's
5 seconds. That's it.
But props for props are due. This is an era before CG.
Yeah, that's true.
And we totally delved into nothing but puppetry in this, which I've always had a soft spot for.
That's true.
Animatronics and puppetry. But you are talking 1993. This is 12 months before Jurassic Park.
Oh, my God.
And you take a look at the dinosaurs we got out of Super Mario Brothers and out of Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah. It's night and day. It's night and day, and it's
going into a fancy restaurant and ordering a hot dog. It's a horrible idea.
It
never should have happened.
Like I said, it's angering me even to think about it. And poor, you have the page up there. Remind me, the guy who played Mario,
Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins. At the end of his life, there was an interview with him, and he said they had asked him. They said, "Do you have any regrets in your career?" And he said, "The only regret I have was doing the Super Mario Brothers movie." And you know what? I don't remember Bob Hoskins for that movie. He's a great actor that was thrown into a terrible situation, and just awful. I mean, there's some movies that are so bad you want to say oh, you should go and see it, but this one's so bad it literally angers me to think about it. So I don't know if I could even recommend it as a bad movie.
It is credited as the first movie ever made based on a video game.
Yep.
So think of the first movie made in any genre.
That's true.
It's going to be horrible.
Yep.
It's either going to really win or really fail. And this one really failed.
Oh,
But the problem is it set the pace for what was to come, which was years and years and years of fail. And I would go on a limb and saying that there was probably only one video game movie of the 1990s that I would consider epically amazing.
Really? I'm very interested
Yes.
now. Could it be the Street Fighter movie?
Jean-Claude Van Damme was absolute garbage in that film. That's Raul Julia's last movie. God, no. No, but you're close.
Are we talking about Resident Evil?
Mortal Kombat.
Oh, the first
The
Mortal Kombat.
first Mortal Kombat
okay,
movie
you know
to
what?
this day is still
Totally.
that great.
I think it was amazing too. You know, I remember seeing that. I wanted to go to theaters and see it, but I was actually just too young at the time to go and see it in theaters. So as soon as that came out, I watched it on VHS, and I watched this movie like 10, 20 times in a row.
Watched the shit out of that film.
I watched it so much. My dad actually, I still remember him going out, and he bought me the soundtrack for Mortal Kombat on CD. And at the time, that was pretty intense because it was still on CD or cassette. And this was my first ever music CD was Mortal Kombat, the soundtrack. And I still have it around here somewhere with, you know, all the original songs on it. And it is, yeah, I would totally agree with you. I can't even believe I didn't think of Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat to this
really
day.
Good.
I mean, I don't even want to talk about the second one, but Mortal Kombat to this day is still one of my favorite direct video game property becoming a movie titles.
Yep.
Amazing music that was actually taken directly from the game. The same music that appears in the movie came from that was produced for the game. A lot of the original Mortal Kombat music, so we're talking 1994-ish, that rave techno era, appeared on the Sega CD version. Back to the Sega CD again. The Sega CD version, and you could take the Sega CD game of Mortal Kombat, put it into a CD player, and play the tracks.
Yes. Yeah, I had heard about this. I think I saw that on the Did You Know Gaming website where they had like those little pictures of all these little facts and people didn't know. But yeah, no, totally. It was a really solid movie, and it was like, you know what I think it was? It was a movie, and it was rated R.
Was it rated R?
I think it was rated
or
R.
PG-13.
You know what? I'm pretty sure it was rated R because I remember there was a lot of swearing in a lot of the songs.
There's asshole, and for sure because Luke Cage is those are $500 sunglasses, asshole. But they used Sub-Zero's freeze and shatter fatality, not his rip spine fatality.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, no, I loved the first one. The second one, you're right. No, you're right. PG-13. But you know what? That did make a big difference, in my opinion. The PG-13 compared to the... I'm pretty sure that...
So you've got the IMDb page up right now. I think the key thing that made this a great movie is take a look at the credited writers. Scroll up. It's right there at the top.
Oh, yeah. Ed Boon.
Ed Boon and John Tobias. Right, the noob Sabot himself.
Yeah.
They have writing credits on the film. Now, they didn't write the screenplay, but they actually did, from what I understand, they did have veto on certain elements.
Oh, okay.
Right? So they were able to ensure that certain things stayed into the game.
That's very important.
Right? One of the things that like they're insistent on was that they built the story around... the video game had the story, right? So it had the little flashcards at the beginning and the endings, like Mortal Kombat's have always had. Your fighting game story where you get your synopsis and then your prologue at the end. And you know things like Sonya kills Kano.
Yeah.
Right? Those sort of things were kept in there, and they made for a more cohesive, not just as a fan, but I know people who were like, this is a decent little action film.
And that storyline is still going to this day, even up until Mortal Kombat X that has recently come out with the whole Sonya and Kano rivalry.
Sure.
So.
In fact, if you want to watch the only film that I would say based on Mortal Kombat that is better than the original Mortal Kombat movie is the YouTube cutscenes from Mortal Kombat 9 that were stitched together in the story mode.
Yeah.
Because it redoes the first 3 games.
Yeah.
Altogether.
Well, have you seen the series that was I believe it was started by Michael Jai White, where he played Jax. And it had Jerry Ryan in it playing.
Oh yeah. There was a YouTube short series
I can't
a while
remember what it was
back.
called. I think it was called Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
No,
or
Annihilation
something.
was the second movie.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, let's not speak of that. Let's not speak of that at all.
Do you like that? It's my animality.
But yeah, no. That if I can remember what the name of that series was, that was a very good YouTube series for a while, and I know they did a lot of episodes for it actually.
Yeah. Well, there was a Mortal Kombat TV show as well, and it focused on Liu Kang, and there was a subplot with Shang Tsung getting back to the Earth realm, and he was like stuck in some sort of mine. I don't know why Shao Kahn would have him mining something, but
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm trying to find the name of this show, but I just. Oh, was it Conquest?
Yes, that's exactly it. It was
Conquest. There was Conquest, and then there was Rebirth and Legacy, and those were the Rebirth was the one actually that was done by Michael Jai White.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Conquest was the TV show I was just referring to.
Yeah.
What I saw was Legacy.
Yeah.
I didn't see Rebirth, but
Rebirth was kind of like the teaser, and they kind of put that out and said like, "Would you guys be interested in this?" And then from Rebirth came Legacy.
The power of the fan film.
Exactly, totally.
Get the people who love the property to do it right.
Exactly.
Switching topics to comic book movies.
Yeah.
Right? You don't get your traditional writers to write comic book movies because you end up with the same shit that these guys have ended up with. You get the fans, the comic book writers to write comic book movies.
Exactly.
When video game fans write video game movies, they're amazing.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of these guys have been writing fan fictions their whole life, waiting for this moment to come out, right? And now it's finally here. They're like, "Oh, we have all of these ideas. Which one do you want?
You want some material? Blech.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
7,000 pages worth of whatever you fucking want.
Exactly. Right.
What genre do you want? I happen to do a Mario Brothers in the Old West. I happen to do Donkey Kong where he works at a donut store.
Exactly.
I think that shit's hot. Sir, you're fucking weird, but thank you for your script.
But still,
we'll call you.
Yeah, like I'd like to see more of that happen, and I know like the internet now is just, I don't want to use the word riddle because it makes it sound bad, but it's just blossoming, I guess, with all of these great fan films out there. I mean, some of the best video game movies I've seen have been fan films that I've watched on YouTube.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, totally.
Special effects are becoming really cheap now to produce. A lot of companies that have cloud software based on a subscription model have allowed creative people to really become true digital artists.
Yeah. You
don't need a $20,000 machine with a copy of 3D Studio Max anymore.
Yeah.
People are doing some amazing found footage stories on their iPhones. Edited some green screen effects, and heck, I mean, green screens are really cheap to make.
Oh yeah, totally.
And when you film that stuff, it's come a long way.
Yeah.
It really makes me happy to think about what my kids someday, children, will experience as their comic book movie, right? Right now I think right now we are in the blossoming era of the comic book movie, and I meant to say video game movie a minute ago. But I think when we'll go through that phase because our comic books 20, 30 years ago, the technology's finally caught up. Yep. So today's video games, 20, 30 years from now, I would not be surprised if my children, whenever that happens, my children end up seeing a live-action Pokemon film.
Oh, totally.
How amazing would that be?
That would be,
right?
If it's anything like the first movie, it's an emotional roller coaster already.
Ash Ketchum.
Oh, God, Pikachu! No, I totally agree. I mean, there's so many of those things. We're in phase 3 now, right?
We're officially in phase 3.
Yeah, we're in phase 3 of the Marvel
Cinematic Universe.
Yeah,
and then
totally.
DCCU, or is it Warner Brothers CU, or whatever the hell they want to call that?
Whatever they want.
I mean, they took their shit film that everybody hated, right? Why the fuck did Zod kill everybody with his laser eyes, right? I mean, a chiropractic adjustment took out our biggest bad guy in Superman.
Yep.
What was it? Dirtbag of Steel or something?
Dirtbag of Steel.
now they're taking, well, you know what? Fuck, they hated that? Yeah, so did we. And so did Batman. And Batman's going to kick some ass because he hated that.
Yeah, he hated that movie just as much as all of us. And
now all of a sudden, it's a classic.
Yeah.
Man of Steel will go down in fame as the birth of the DC cinematic universe that ultimately will make people love Aquaman.
Oh, well, that is going to be a chore. I mean, even I think Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot has something to show in this movie.
Yeah, I hope she's got something to show in this movie. Mainly, what's behind that Amazonian corset.
Oh, yeah, no, totally.
I really hope she's not made of clay because lack of genitalia on that woman would be the saddest thing ever.
I'd be very upset.
But we digress.
Yeah, no, totally. We've covered a lot of bases here today, and I feel like we could almost have a second podcast just about this topic because there's so many to cover. Like something we didn't even mention was like the Wizard and Resident Evil.
I was going to mention the Wizard, but again, I wasn't sure if you were talking. Again, we spoke about this before we went live. Are we talking about direct adaptations, or are we talking about movies inspired by video games?
Yeah.
The Wizard, phenomenal film. I love it. It breaks my little heart. It's an hour and a half long commercial for the Power Glove and Super Mario Brothers 3. Which is great. Another great video game inspired film. Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh, that is above all, in my opinion. Like, that is so good. One of the movies, and if Andrew's listening out here, he can definitely confirm. We probably saw that in theaters like 20 times.
I never did.
Oh my God! Well,
I was so
don't
afraid.
worry, I made up for you.
I was so afraid they wouldn't do I guess I call it the comic book, but realistically, it's drawn as a manga.
Yeah.
Justice, because I was a big fan. Of both video games and comic books and everything else. So when that came out, I was like, I just don't know if it's going to live up to the hype. But when I finally, sat down on home video, Pirate Bay, and got myself a copy, I loved it. And I probably did do 3 or 4 sittings in the first week alone I had it. Right? I mean, they got everything just perfect.
Yeah. There are some scenes in that movie that are direct from the comic. Well, like, you could hold the comic up and you'd be looking at the same picture.
Well, that's where comic book movies and video game movies diverge. When you create a movie, you start with a concept and you go through all this yada yada. But before you begin shooting, you create a storyboard.
Totally.
A storyboard is a comic book.
Yeah, exactly.
So
they already had that all pretty much done for them.
Again, hey, you want 75 years worth of Batman storyboards?
Yeah,
well, I guess.
Yeah,
but your video games, nobody really took up on that. They just thought this is another cash grab. Mattel successfully monetized toys in the 80s with television shows.
Yep.
Right. And people have been following that formula ever since. But the kids have changed, right?
That's exactly.
I'm not looking to see Metroplex on my TV anymore, right?
No.
I'm not buying that toy.
No, totally.
You need to evolve.
Yeah, exactly. And once they finally get to that point where, the quality of the video game movies themselves match the quality of the video games they're based on, I think we'll be in a fairly good spot, but I just don't see it happening. You know what? In my opinion, my personal opinion, I see it going the other way. I almost see video games moving more into the video and movie market, and movies themselves becoming more interactive because you already see it happening in theaters now with stuff like D-Box seats, and the 3D, and they want people to be more interactive with it. I mean, soon enough we're going to be having theaters where we all go and sit and put VR helmets on, and now we're just in this movie.
And there will be random people throwing their asses 3 inches from our face.
Yeah.
And ha ha ha, he doesn't even know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
But, okay, so I got a couple of questions I want to ask you.
Yeah.
You've played a video game in your life?
I'd say I've played at least one.
And you've played a modern RPG through to completion?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And how long does it take for the credits to roll?
Oh, from beginning to end.
From beginning to end.
Oh god. Well,
and fuck you, Microsoft, for putting a goddamn achievement at the end of Fable. You had to watch all those fucking credits to get the achievement. But the credits took 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Your movie credits today take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That just should go to show you right there how many people it takes to make a good video game versus how many people it takes to make a good movie.
Yeah.
And how easy it is to fuck that up.
Exactly.
I have had a realization lately, and this is slightly off topic again, but so soon.
Of course, this is what happens.
When I was growing up, I thought that TV shows were TV shows. They were my half hour or 42 minutes of fun. And then that was it for this week. Next week, the characters will do something wacky and zany again. It'll be wonderful. Movies were for your deep, deep stories.
Totally.
So now I'm like, I've got my 2-hour format down. We are cramming into a 2-hour film. Hundreds of hours of game content.
Yeah.
And hundreds of hours. If you wanted to make a Final Fantasy VII movie today, you could spend 3 movies before you get up to the point where Sephiroth's stabby in the Aerith's back.
Spoiler alert.
If you haven't played Final Fantasy VII. We'll really have to edit that out just in case.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm trying to make is Marvel has changed the way they think. Marvel has created the new format of Marvel method, where they take let's take Daredevil, for example. Daredevil is a 12-hour movie. Okay?
Yeah.
It is a 12-and-a-half-hour film. Now, how do you compare to a 2-hour Daredevil film, which we've also seen?
Yep.
And how do you get the same kind of content? You don't.
No.
Right? Because what's happened now is television has become less episodic and more continuous. So you go to your TV shows now for your overarching long stories, and you go to your movies for your quick popcorn fixes. That's why the Avengers first one was so good, because it was really 12-hour movie, right? You had all of these films before you got to the Avengers. Video games, we sit down. I'm playing Arkham Knight right now, and I think I'm 20 hours into it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's majority story.
Yeah.
So how do you turn Arkham Knight into a movie?
Exactly. You can't.
You don't in your 2-hour format. What I really want to see in the future is a couple of Netflix series based on video game titles.
Oh, that would be amazing.
We've got the technology.
Yep.
Right? You want you want teenagers with attitude? Give me a Battletoads 12 episode. Give me 12 episodes Netflix. Please give me 12 episodes of Battletoads.
Well, there's still the rumors of Netflix doing a Zelda series. They said it was confirmed, then it was not confirmed, then it was confirmed again, and now Nintendo's saying like, oh, well, we don't know, maybe. Like they're being like really, Nintendo about it. Nintendo and kind of deflecting.
One big kick at the can. Yeah. Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
I don't think Nintendo has co-produced a film since.
Yeah.
Maybe The Wizard, but I'm not sure.
I think they had.
And The Wizard would have been before that anyway.
Yeah. For sure.
And now they're throwing in with this pixel shit.
Yeah. No, totally, and it's. It's coming full circle, basically, is what's happening.
Exactly. If you're only going to choose to associate with trash, you will be labeled as trash.
Yeah.
It works with teenage girls. It works with video game movies.
I totally agree with you. And on that thought, we're getting to the end of the podcast here. And as per usual, for anyone who's listened to the previous episodes, we like to play a little game at the end of every episode called Super Fight.
Super Fight.
And I could not recommend this game more. Like, this game is so fun. Basically, what's going to happen here is me and Dave are going to be getting some cards, some with characters on them and some with attributes on them. And what we're going to have to do is choose a fighter, and we have to justify to you out there who we think would win in a fight. Now, I see Dave's eyes widening here.
He can't win.
But I guess we'll see. Who can and cannot win once I put mine down as well. Oh boy, man, mine are okay. That's
all three of these attributes are amazing.
This is pretty funny. I got one of the cards I actually got in a previous episode, and I may be using that again. So, if you're ready to go here,
I am
Dave,
ready to go.
Guest always gets to draw first, so let us know what you got.
All right, so you're walking down. My character's walking down an alley. He sees your character, and then out of nowhere, sniff, sniff. Come at me, bub. It's Wolverine.
Oh, shit. But what is he doing? What is Wolverine doing?
Doesn't matter what Wolverine's doing because he's awesome. He's Wolverine. Now, I'll even give you the choice. Does he have bone claws or adamantium claws at this point?
Okay.
It doesn't really matter when he comes equipped with a bow and cancer-tipped arrows. So, it's cancer-tipped arrows.
Let's
assume
terrible.
for once he knows. Of course, he knows how to use a bow.
Yeah.
He's been trained by Japanese shogun.
Totally.
He's a samurai. He knows everything to do with that.
It's very true.
All right. So, what are you using to deflect Wolverine's cancer-tipped arrows?
Well, I'm afraid that Wolverine, whether he be adamantium, bone, or otherwise, would do little to none against Cthulhu.
Oh, shit!
And, I mean, Cthulhu by himself is a god. So, I mean, he doesn't
He's a
even
great
need
old one.
Mjolnir to bust open Wolverine's face.
All right. Well, I'm going to argue you down because there's no way Cthulhu will be able to wield Mjolnir.
Yeah, you think he's not worthy enough?
I definitely think he is not worthy.
I'd say at least one of his tentacles would be worthy enough to pick up Mjolnir. But, I mean, regardless of whether he's using Mjolnir or not, he's fucking Cthulhu.
All right, so I will give you the fact that cancer-tipped arrows are going to do sweet fuck all against Cthulhu. But Cthulhu's power is madness.
That's true.
And Wolverine has overcome madness several times over.
Very true.
And adamantium claw, since you're giving me the choice, I'm just going to start snick, berserker rage, taking down those tentacles one at a time.
Well, you will have to do it one at a time because I am ginormous in comparison to you. So, we've set our characters and their first initial traits. Now we draw a second card, and I'll let you know that. Okay, so I've got Cthulhu armed with Mjolnir, but he's also commanding the Enterprise just as a side gig.
Which Enterprise?
I'm gonna say the. Oh man, you put me on the spot. The
original, Next Generation.
No, I'm gonna go Next Gen,
so
Next Generation. Yeah.
The D.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Okay,
with Next
so
Generation.
he's got the Enterprise D. I'm assuming the commanding crew.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Else,
He
right?
has everything that comes along with that.
He probably doesn't have Jean-Luc because he's commanding. That's fair.
Yeah,
he probably
that's true.
took that guy out, right? Mine doesn't matter.
He was already engaged.
He was already engaged. Otherwise, engaged.
In other things.
Mine doesn't matter. Mine's throwaway because it's at half HP.
Oh,
and Wolverine regenerates.
That's true. So really, that does nothing.
It does absolutely nothing for or against me.
Yeah.
So I've already deemed that the cancer. Now I'm going to come back with the cancer-tipped arrows because you're think there goes Worf. Think there goes maybe not Data.
Yeah.
Think there goes Will Wheaton.
Yeah. No. You guys be nicer to Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton.
I just don't think that no matter what you're going to do, I mean, Cthulhu is just going to crush you. He's huge. He's godlike. He's got like 7 million tentacles. I mean, this
survived
is going to be like
a nuclear blast.
Yeah.
Regenerated from a single atom.
Let's see how he does against the king of all hentais. We'll see.
The king of all hentais.
The king of all hentais, Cthulhu.
Right. Well, he's too busy with tentacle porning all the chicks on the Enterprise. Wolverine's going to come up and snick that bitch. He's the best there is at what he does, and what he does is kill Cthulhu.
So, let us know what you guys think out there. Who do you think would win in a fight? Cthulhu, armed with Mjolnir, commanding the Enterprise D, or is it Wolverine, armed with a bow and cancer-tipped arrows at half HP, which doesn't really matter when you're talking about Wolverine because he does regenerate. So, for this episode of Bonus Round, I want to thank you, Dave, for coming by and talking to me about all the crap that we just talked about.
Anytime. We'll have to do this again.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like this topic itself would be 3 or 4 podcasts long. So, for us here at Bonus Time Podcast, thanks for coming by.
Hey, anytime. Have a good one.
All right, thanks, guys.
Drops Mike.